Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Aussie Starcraft. We're bringing you some of the amazing games that took place recently at MLG's Game On. These games will be from the Group A stages of the tournament. In the top right-hand corner of Habitation Station, it is Motivation, our purple Zerg player, better known as Kane, a Canadian Grandmaster Zerg. Now, we've seen a lot of Kane in the last year. Actually managed to win Shoutcraft USA, so that was an excellent achievement for him. His first major tournament win. He's participated in a lot of minor tournaments with fairly good results, and actually towards the end of last year announced that he was taking some time off school to focus on his pro gaming career. So a lot of props to Kane for having the courage to do that. As his opponent at the top of the left hand corner, it does say Scarecrow. It is in fact EGHuk, so most people would know Huk. He's obviously been a long-standing fixture of the community in the North American region, and very, very well known and liked by both players and fans. Certainly showcases a lot of very dynamic Protoss play, well known for his early aggro and his micro management of his units. Very good micro. The joke top 3 control actually stems from a comment that Huk made years ago now, but it's sort of been a long running joke in the Starcraft community. But his play is no joke. Very good player. So this should be a great matchup between Kane and Huk here at MLG's Game On online tournament that's going to help us kick off 2014. So we have a first scouting overlord making its way across the map for Kane. We have what looks like a fairly standard gateway opening here from Huk. Looks like Kane will be going for an expansion after pool, so a little bit more conservative opening. Of course, Habitation Station gives us a lot of interesting options. These high yield mineral patches being reintroduced to the tournament scene certainly going to affect play. Often you'll see players expand straight to the high yield. Not as safe an option, particularly against a player like Huk. Huk, known for his early aggro, you generally as a Zerg player won't want to be taking a base that's not set, that's so far distant from your main base. Very difficult to connect them with creep, and subsequently hard to defend them against the early pushes, things that you'd rely on units like your queens and non-speedlings to try and defend. So you have a few scouting lings coming out now from Kane, and it looks like Huk's going to be going for a gateway expand here. He's got his warp gate on the way now. First, actually no military units on the field yet, but I imagine we'll be seeing a mothership core or a stalker. Indeed, there's the stalker coming down, and that should be more than enough to defend against these early couple of lings. A few probes and a stalker, generally going to be the equal of those. These pylons actually going to be tanking a little bit of the damage, buying Huk the time. He's going to cancel those, so he loses the 25 minerals, but it does buy him quite a lot of time. The second pylon likewise going to need to be cancelled. Stalker here going to be able to push these lings back, and managing to not take any damage from that early sort of ling aggression. Looks like Kane's going to be content to micro up here. He's pulled his workers out of gas after grabbing enough for Zergling speed, and it looks like we'll see a fairly a gasless opening from here out while he macros up as best he can. We have a stalker here just being a bit of a nuisance, harassing these overlords back into place. I like this choice from Huk, forcing his opponent to denying a little bit of map vision, forcing his opponent back into his base. Always a good step in the right direction. Allows Huk to begin doing things like dropping these gateways, getting up a few extra aggressive units, and gives him the option to try and surprise Kane with some early aggression. This mothership core going to be able to rain a bit of fire from above on these Zerglings. Third base now going down for Kane, and it looks like Kane's going to try and sneak a few of these lings past into Huk's expansion. But these 3 gateways are going to allow Huk to get plenty of units ready to defend here in time. Speed is just activating now, so this stalker actually very close to going down here, but the sentry is here in time. Is going to allow a force field if needed, and to save the stalk with the force field, throw down a few more sentries behind that. It's going to allow Huk to keep himself very safe for the foreseeable future, keep things like this ling aggression out. and allow HUK to continue trying to be a little bit of a nuisance with this mothership core. Mothership core obviously great for scouting, has one of the largest sight ranges in the game, as you can see, allowing HUK to get great vision of what's going on in Kane's base, allowing him to see this third base, and just in general keep a great eye on what's going on. Mothership's actually going to get a kill here with this drone if Kane's not careful. Going to save it by turning into an extractor. They'll pop the all vision back on, and just I like HUK's use of the mothership core. Very well, not necessarily the traditional use of it. Obviously, you often see it back here defending, but obviously HUK knows he's quite safe with the zealot and sentries sitting here, and instead using the mothership core, using the great sight range on it to just get a great idea of what's going on here and what he's dealing with from Kane. We have quite a few roaches on the way. They're almost finished up as well, and actually have Kane throwing down a few spore crawlers, so going to be protected against any potential air harass at these bases, and also going to have sight on any potential DT. So Kane just going for a fairly safe macro opening, and just protecting himself against any of the early harass options that HUK has. HUK continuing to use that mothership core to clean up zerglings, just denying as much sight as humanly possible. You actually have HUK moving out here now with a number of sentries and zealots. This is a timed push designed to put a little bit of pressure on this third base, so we do have quite a few roaches on the field now, and potential for many more to come up behind this. Roach speed going to be about a minute away, but we have 16 more zerglings and 5 roaches, and this should be enough for Kane to hold on to this, providing he doesn't let HUK determine too much of the engagement. Unfortunately for HUK, it is mainly zealots here, so not a whole lot of range units. If he's not careful, he's going to get surrounded by these Zerg units. Going to be forced a mothership recall out of that. So both players taking a little bit of damage there, but nothing critical. Kane now choosing to move out across the map, knows that there'll be a little bit less energy on that mothership core. Unfortunately for Kane, still plenty for a photon overcharge, and this front door is going to be zergling tight for the foreseeable future. Have +1 weapons on the field now for HUK, and that's certainly going to give him an edge in these battles. Robo facility coming up behind us, so likely that we'll see a few immortals out of this in the immediate future. The amount of sentries that HUK has certainly going to make it very easy for him to go for some sort of sentry immortal timing. Kane, of course, relying on the Zergling Roach defense, is very vulnerable to immortal sentry pushes. Things like the force fields make it very easy to funnel the Zerglings and to keep the majority of the Roaches out of the action. So the immortals will certainly rack up quite a lot of kills. The Stalker's also with a bonus against the armoured Roaches, so Kane going to have to be very careful here, wanting to put some pressure on this third base, but unfortunately it's going to be a little bit too little too late. Kane pinning a few of those Zerglings in place, sacrificing a bit of the energy on the force field, but certainly going to have plenty left for this coming engagement. The mothership core just continue to rain death, but HUK actually caught here between the two hammer and anvil style approach of Kane. Kane unfortunately unable to take down this immortal racking in the kills, 3 kills so far, a lot of damage as well on these units, but the Roaches barreling their way in. This mortal does finally go down here. A few Stalkers warped in, going to be exactly what HUK needs to hold the line here. Sentries do get picked off, so nice choice of focus firing from Kane. Unfortunately retreating through that time warp isn't going to work for Kane. He is going to lose the last few of those units. We actually have Enduring Locusts on the way, so it could well be some Swarm Host play out of Kane here. He does have 3 base already in play, trying to clean up HUK's proxy pylons, but there is an extra one down the base on the bottom right hand side, so HUK's still going to have plenty of options to warp in. Blink almost finished, as well as ground weapons level 2, and plenty more immortals on the way, one being chrono boosted out now. I imagine we'll see a second to follow, so Swarm Hosts are an interesting choice, certainly not something we've seen a lot of in competitive play. It'll be interesting to see how HUK deals with these. HUK has excellent control, and he's certainly going to need it against the Swarm Host. Kane yet again sandwiching this force. The sentries doing a great job of holding the right hand side off, but Kane barreling straight into these sentries. I mean, pick off a few more of these. certainly going to be very cost effective, and he has taken down a number of sentries. 2 immortals here and are racking a lot of kills, 7 kills each on these immortals, expensive roach kills, so going to help Huk be able to force this back. But the question is Huk ready for this Swarm Host follow-up? And I think the answer, unfortunately, is going to be no. There's no Colossus in play, and there's certainly no air units ready to assist. So free Locusts against expensive Stalkers and Immortals certainly going to favour Kane going forwards. And perhaps Huk hasn't been expecting this because we don't see a lot of it. So it'll certainly be interesting to see, and certainly going to either swing the pendulum further in Kane's favour or going to cost him the game. So Swarm Hosts, of course, very situational units. You've got to be very careful with your control. Caught out of position by Blink Stalkers, they will get cleaned up very quickly. But it's this relentless march of Locusts that's very dangerous for the Protoss player. The units are very expensive. Things like these Stalkers going to be forced away. The sentries, very slow moving, could be picked off. Luckily for Huk, he's engaging away from the creep, so the Swarm Hosts aren't going to be able to do as much damage as they ordinarily would have done. And it's this free march that you have to be so careful about. If you're lazy or just don't move your units far enough away, these will pick off a lot of your very expensive units very quickly. So I think we'll see Huk tech either for air units or Colossus. I think Colossus might be the choice. In fact, we do have the robotics bay going now. Smart choice, given the robotics facility was already in play. A little bit quicker to try and produce a few Colossus, and it does force the Zerg to try and counter with air units, either the Viper to abduct or things like Corruptors, to try and kill the Colossi. And there, nice pickup there, catching the Immortal out on its own as it was trying to reinforce. So Zerglings for an Immortal, it's going to be a great trade every day of the week. These Swarm Hosts just continuing their march of death. Unfortunately, the sentry's going to be forced back here, and Huk forced to try and find another avenue of attack. Now, Habitation Station has 3 clear avenues of attack. It has this lane between the high yield expansion, has this large middle engaging area that branches off both high and low towards the later expansions of the Zerg player, as a 3rd avenue of attack across the base. So Huk here going to be forced to engage along the top, as that's where the Zerg bases are currently at, trying to engage these Locusts and just losing a lot of units here. A few sentries have gone down, a few more unable to be focus fired down, unfortunately for Kane. But these free units are gonna certainly tilt the favour in Kane's favour. Tilt the game, sorry, in Kane's favour. We see the units lost is more units for Kane thus far, but every time these units are caught out of position like this, it will be starting to swing the pendulum back towards Kane. Protoss weapons level 3 is on the way. There's a great upgrade advantage, I believe, for Kane. We do in fact see it is +2 attack to +1 ground weapons for our Zerg player, so certainly upgrade advantage there for Huk. The question is, well, what is he going to do with it? We have a few Overlords here that can scout any potential Warp Prism harass. Huk generally well known for that sort of aggression. Unfortunately for Huk, this large warp in is going to get spotted here. That is going to buy Huk the opportunity to blink here into the high yield expansion, so nice use of the Blink Stalkers here. It's going to make this 4th base very vulnerable. Big Swarm Host push is going to push these Stalkers back onto the low ground, but quite a few workers were killed. 18 workers killed thus far by Huk, so able to do quite a lot of aggression. But we have the Spine Crawlers being produced here to try and prevent the Blink Stalkers from moving around the main army of Zerg units. And ladies and gentlemen, I think you'll have to buckle up for a slightly longer and more epic game here. And it's a bit of a controversial point with the Swarm Hosts at the moment. Some players like them, some players hate them, but the effect they're having when they are used, in the rare occasion that players are going to them in the tournament scene, is they force a much longer game. That it is very difficult for the opponent to maneuver around them, particularly on certain maps like Habitation Station with a limited avenues of attack. We can see that Kane doing a great job with static defense. A lot of Zerg players just don't build the static defense, and Kane using it to try and prevent any harassment from Huk hitting home. If this pylon's cleaned up, he would manage to push this aggression away and make himself quite safe, and that leaves only this very unpalatable attack across this heavily defended swarm host spine crawler line. We also already have some corruptors here, so I think Kane's situating himself for a game of attrition against EGHuk, but EGHuk now with a massive body of Colossi on the field, 4 in play, 2 more behind it, as well as the High Templar. So things that are crucial for dealing with this volume of swarm hosts is things like the High Templar. If you can get them on top of the swarm hosts and storm this, you do damage to the swarm host and locusts at the same time. Also very critical are things like the sentries, being able to control exactly where those locusts can push forward. And now we can see that EGHuk can in fact threaten this high yield from the low ground with his Colossi and to roast up more and more of these workers, up to 36 workers killed. But looks like Kane isn't going to relent on the swarm host. Swarm host is going to be trying to push these back. And we actually have some broodlords being walked in, so we have the late game composition from Kane here. We have broodlord corruptor swarm host, so going to be a very difficult defensive line to try and push. It's not often that we see Turtle Zerg. We did see it early out of Stefano in Heart of the Swarm, as he tried to prove just how difficult and broken the swarm host could be. But in spite of this sort of mechanic, we just have never seen the swarm host make it into the popular Zerg strategies in tournaments. Generally still preferred to go Zergling, Bangling, Muta, particularly players like Jado and Scarlet certainly favouring that approach over this sort of static pushing strategy that we're seeing out of Kane here. So we'll see how this goes for Kane. Can he make it work against a player of EGHuk's calibre, or will EGHuk be able to break this open? We see just consistent zealot counterattacks, and it's certainly very important. You don't want Kane to be able to jockey forward and push this line too far out. Needs things like this constant aggression. Unfortunately, the pylon has now been cleaned up, and EGHuk has had to establish one even further away. Have the 5th base now coming up for Kane here, and EGHuk taking 4th base of his own. Actually, surprisingly electing not to clean out this high yield, instead favouring these bases that are much further away from his opponent. I can understand the reasoning there. Swarm hosts, once they get in this position and move up the ramp, make it very difficult to try and evac that site, and you tend to lose all your drones. These swarm hosts continue to push forward, picking up a stalker here and a stalker there, not doing critical damage, but as we see, the unit loss tab is starting to favour Kane here. So the High Templar being picked off there. Will he be able to make it back? These locusts so fast on creep. They are going to pick up the High Templar. Expensive units to lose there. We can see that EGHuk's going to need another solution. There's a big warp in of High Templars in the main base here. Going to take out some of this static defense. Question is, how does Kane respond to this? Lots of zealots continuing to be warped in time and time again. The main Protest army still threatening down the bottom. Gonna keep our swarm host in position. Warp Prism is going to get cleaned up by the Corruptors and Vipers, but actually managing to snipe the Evolution Chamber there. Going to be delaying the upgrades, and going to be starting to harass this main base. Things like the Infestation Pit, very vulnerable here. We have a Stalker actually managing to pick off some of these Overlords that are scouting, and a massive amount of spine crawlers being thrown down here at the gold expansion as this game goes into the late stages, almost at the 30-minute mark now. Kane forced to throw down a lot of static defense, very vulnerable against these Warp Prism attack. Obviously the Warp Prism was very successful, so we have EGHuk actually producing 2 of those. I imagine we'll see some double-pronged harass from these Warp Prism, still able to sneak them back and forward along these lines of aggression. These Roaches, unfortunately, unlucky Roaches, just barreling straight into the Protoss Death Ball. Some more pressure from EGHuk against this high yield expansion. Have some Locusts starting to make their way forward. A few Storms and Force Fields would be able to delay that. Unfortunately, the Infestors now on the field going to be pinning this unit in place. Actually plucking the Overlords off with the Vipers there is going to allow Kane to just clean up those units. So nice nice choice on the attempted aggression. We have 59 workers killed for EGHuk, but unfortunately still managing to lose the units lost battle as that continues to favour Kane here, and the gap growing exponentially with each engagement. And it looks like EGHuk just doesn't know how to engage these swarm hosts. Very used to obviously dealing with Zergling, Bangling, Muta and other Roach Hydra play. Just hasn't managed to come up with the money composition yet to deal with these swarm hosts. And I've got to say, Kane's position in these swarm hosts has been excellent, managing to put consistent pressure on, but I can't help but think more effective creep spread would allow him to just make this strategy more and more viable. His creep still at the 30-minute mark, still not over halfway, though part of that is due to the fact that Kane's been pushing it back with Colossi. We see air weapons just finishing up now for EGHuk, and EGHuk actually grabbing a few Tempests. So interesting choice from him. I like the choice of these Tempests. The only things that can clean them up really are the Corruptors that are on the field. Most of them having been morphed into Broodlords. Very, very safe unit choice. Even if they're abducted by the Viper, they will tend to get make their way back out safely. These Locusts almost able to grab a Colossi, indeed, down to red health. Good thing EGHuk managed to keep that alive. Very pricey units to lose. There aren't a lot of, there's still about 9 or 10 Corruptors here on the field, as EGHuk tries to make a stage here that those Tempests are going to be able to pick off things like the Broodlords very quickly. Broodlords, of course, massive air unit, are going to go down very quickly. They can be 2 or 3 shot by these Tempests. Pulling those Tempests across, the Corruptors do manage to pick one of them off, and EGHuk's going to need a few more air units to back this up, as the Corruptors are able to kill one of the Tempests and try and just going to continue to lure EGHuk into this swarm host. What's the right plural, guys, for a group of swarm hosts? Is it gaggle? Is it a horde? You have so many options. I was going to say a host of swarm hosts, but that seems just a little bit too circular. What do you guys think the right plural is for for this sort of armada of swarm hosts? We have about 20 swarm hosts in play now. Let us know in the comments down below what is the correct plural for swarm hosts in your humble opinion. And we just have, unfortunately for EGHuk, we just have this line of Kane's units moving progressively forward. The Tempest, I like the choice of Tempest from EGHuk. It is going to put the same pressure on Kane that Kane is putting on EGHuk with these swarm hosts. Unfortunately, these swarm hosts now in a position to threaten this new 5th base. And guys, when I cast this game, I wasn't expecting this sort of lengthy game. I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied as we break past the 32-minute mark. EGHuk seems to want to go for it down here. And we're seeing a really interesting dynamic here. Normally Zerg players try to get more bases than the Protoss player and try and bleed them out. They try and exchange units and just take down the death ball and re-max out to win the game. But with the swarm hosts are forcing almost a reverse of that mechanic, in that EGHuk's the one with more bases trying to outdo his opponent. But it looks like EGHuk here has managed to slip in between the spawns of swarm hosts. Can he actually kill these locusts? Indeed he can. He's going to be able to force his way up the ramp. Though now the units are here to defend. We have a few Broodlords, and we have EGHuk's army actually caught here on the ramp by Fungals. A quick mass recall is going to get those units out of the way, but the Corruptors are going to swarm forward to try and engage these Tempests. EGHuk needs some anti-air, and there's a lot of Corruptors. We have 20 Corruptors here, or 18 Corruptors here, going to pick off all these Tempests. Poor Colossi also gets picked off, and I think there's just a few too many Immortals in this composition. If we look at EGHuk's composition, a lot of Immortals, a lot of Robo units, but nothing that can actually damage air. We actually have a massive Zealot Warp in here in the main base. The Hive's actually potentially under threat here as we go into the late game. We have this Hive's, it is in fact going to go down. There's too many 3-3 Zealots, or actually 3 Shield Zealots here. The Infestation Pit going down as well. So the question is, will Kane be able to get another high layer up. Layer is coming up, and infestation pit's still going to be a few minutes away. So Huk spawned himself a few minutes apiece. No new swarm hosts are going to be able to spawn. Vipers likewise going to suffer. No Vipers will be in play for the next couple of minutes. Need the hive for those Vipers. Unfortunately unable to snipe the Greater Spire and the +2 attack that was being produced there. That would have been a great little pick off for Huk. Actually have carriers on the way now for Huk, 2 at a time. We have a transition to air from Huk. He's got the +1 armor now on the way. We had +1 weapons, +2 weapons actually on the field as well for Huk. As Huk tries to transition to Skytoss. Skytoss certainly very potent. Things like the Void Rays just able to tear through the Corruptors. And we're seeing an interesting change in composition for Huk. We have 3 Tempest 2 carriers on the field. If Huk can survive the next 5 minutes and transition to Skytoss, it should be very potent for him, actually managing to come back in and snipe the Greater Spire. Those Warp Prisms really starting to take their toll, and I think that's a great choice from Huk, knowing that these swarm hosts are a lot more static, unable to defend things like the main base, and we just see a total abandonment of Kane's main base as these Warp Prisms just continue to warp in threat after threat, and every time these swarm hosts push units forward, it's going to be a signal to Huk that he can in fact warp in a bundle of zealots here. Unfortunately that Warp Prism navigating its way through the main army of Corruptors is going to get picked off. These 2 hero immortals here have been around a long time, 9 kills each, and gee have they seen some things. Actually sitting in the middle of the Zerg army here. Unfortunately the Broodlords have found them. That is going to be the end of the Immortals and not so immortal anymore. And we have this one Immortal trying to streak his way up the field. Will he actually make it? Yep, he is going to make it back on yellow, well, orange health there, I guess. Orange health, orange Protoss. But now we have the siege beginning for Kane in earnest. The battle for this 5th base is underway, and we have Huk moving the Golden Armada, literally Golden Armada. The orange colours there showing up quite nicely. Golden Armada living up to its name, and these swarm hosts going to be in a bit of trouble. The Colossi able to lay down a volley of fire, but it's these air units that are going to do so much damage. A few fungals from these infestors going to be laying down a little bit of cover fire. Can they continue to pin the Protoss units in place? It's the shields here that are just making this very durable, pulling those carriers unfortunately into the heart of the Zerg line, going to allow both the Corruptors and the static defense to do some damage. And though Huk is for the first time this game getting some traction on his opponent, these Immortals muscling their way across the field. Unfortunately there's just too many Corruptors here, and the Colossi do go down a massive supply swing, and Kane takes the lead, 180 supply to 150. Tempest unfortunately unable to make it back, and how is Huk going to handle this? He's now 10,000 resources behind on the units lost tab, and we just have him struggling to deal with this very static pushing force, almost like watching a game of League of Legends or Dota 2, as relentless units are spawned and fight up each of the lanes. This time the battle's in the bottom lane, and these swarm hosts just going to be able to pick away at this cannon defense. These cannons will buy Huk at the moment at the most another minute or 2 before he has to try and defend this base. Of course, moving his air units down here would provide a little bit of defense for the base. Swarm host obviously can't shoot up, that would be completely broken. We have this hero Zealot off chasing down this swarm host, and he's actually going to take him. Oh no, can he get it? Manages to get it before the spine crawlers can pluck him off, so managing to give his life valiantly for Ire. And we have another massive move out of these Zealots. Can Huk get these through in time? They are going to make their way through into this third base not actually mining. Can he get them around behind the swarm hosts? And we'll see where this pivotal swarm goes. If this swarm goes towards Huk's base, then these Zealots will be able to do a lot of damage here. Unfortunately, focusing down the extractor that's already mined out. Picking off the Queen and the spawning pool would be nice pickups, forcing Kane to rebuild those at these late stages of the game. is going to pick up that hatchery, but the hatchery not actually doing a whole lot here. This lair would be a pivotal pickup. Certainly, anytime EGHuk can force Kane to rebuild some of these tech structures, will certainly yield great benefits. The lair actually about to go down for a second time, and so we'll see. Unbelievably, we'll see Kane at the 40-minute mark actually back to pure hatchery tech. New lair has been started down at this slightly safer, well, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4th base location. So we have a 4th and 5th base mining. This 3rd base virtually redundant at this point. Still a lot of static defense. It could perhaps be relocated down to this location just to prevent those zealots from swarming across. But looks like Kane a little bit busy trying to deal with these counterattacks, unable to perhaps get the most efficient use of these structures. And looks like EGHuk's actually mined out his own high yield. So this game's certainly one of the latest games we've seen on Habitation Station. Oh, nice storm drop there from EGHuk. Actually going to clean up all those workers. So EGHuk's actually broken a sentry now. 100 workers killed in this slightly crazy game. 43-minute mark, and he's managed to clean up 100 workers thus far. And EGHuk managing to stay in it, but he's only got these one mining base now. So this cost of this units lost tab, if we can find it, there we go, 11,000 extra units lost. I can't help but feel this is really going to affect EGHuk later in the game. He's got these air units, really needs to pull them back to safety. He does not want to lose these units. If these units go down, it will be GG for EGHuk. Going to pull a few Void Rays across, but we know Void Rays absolutely own Corruptors. You know, you expect Corruptors to be the anti-air unit of choice for Zerg, but unfortunately just not going to cut it against Void Rays, particularly Void Rays that are maxed out as these are +3 weapons, +3 shields. The Void Rays unfortunately getting caught here are going to force the engagement. This is exactly what EGHuk doesn't want. He wants to pull back until those Void Rays have their shields back online. The Viper's just relentlessly pulling in the carriers. Carrier getting picked off there. He's going to pull these units back in. The Infestors are not fungling just yet, but Kane just relentlessly pulling these Void Rays in and engaging them. Corruptors actually managing to trade quite effectively here. The Infestors were key in those first engagements, managing to pull those units in and keep them in place. So nice micro from Kane here, using both the Vipers and Infestors to just get the most mileage out of these swarm hosts. And we see the units lost have actually gone from 60,000, almost 60,000 to 45, so a 15,000 resource differential. I can't help but think that might have been the last hurrah for EGHuk. He's trying to re-max out his 130 supply to 180, and it's just down to this solitary mining base. Massive gas bank that we're not used to seeing for our Zerg player Kane, as he's just managed to be so cost effective with these gas units. If we look at some of these swarm hosts, we have 14 kills, 14 kills, 5 kills, 5 kills. Just so many kills. Oh, we can't see a lot of the swarm hosts underneath the other units, but some of these swarm hosts that have been in play all game have just done massive damage here, and just starting to really swing this game back in Kane's favour. So massive game here as we almost approach the 50-minute mark. Can EGHuk wrestle this game back? Landing a few storms on these Corruptors would be nice, but he does need something to finish them off. If he can somehow manage to kill these Corruptors, if he can land the most money of money storms with these Void Rays to back them up, perhaps he could swing it back. Still have a few Broodlords in play. If we look, we'll swap from the production of the units lost tab, as it is the more telling tab at this point in the game. We have 22 Corruptors to 13 Void Rays. Now in a straight engagement, the Void Rays will win an even engagement. If we can get this Void Ray count to about 20, EGHuk can kill these Corruptors. The real question is, can EGHuk get that straight engagement? And that's been the difficult thing for him all game this game. The excellent positioning of Kane combined with the Vipers and Infestors just means that EGHuk has really struggled to try and get any form of favourable engagement. looks like we do have the lift off of these spine crawlers, but still a bit too busy to engage. We even have the workers of EGHuk engaging here, being mowed down mowed down by Kane. And amazingly, these are the first few workers killed for Kane. He hasn't managed a whole lot of harassment other than what these swarm hosts have accomplished, and but that's actually been sufficient. We've seen a Protoss Zerg role reversal where it's the Protoss being forced to try and be cost efficient against a much more efficient swarm host, and it's been very difficult for EGHuk. So EGHuk unable to find a chink in Kane's armor, and Kane just continuing to muscle forward. We have EGHuk here is continuing to sacrifice his probes, and big fungal growths here on the Void Rays are going to manage to wear down a lot of that shield energy. Nice storm there going down, but unfortunately unable to catch more than a few locusts and swarm hosts. And Kane just continuing to move back. Is incredible patience from Kane, and that's what it takes to try and verse a player of EGHuk's caliber. Another carrier getting picked off there, and unfortunately, as last few Void Rays getting fungal growth in place, can EGHuk do a lot of Void Rays here? Going to town now on these swarm hosts is engagement that EGHuk wanted, but unfortunately these corruptors still in play. A lot of corruptors here, 23 corruptors, 21 corruptors still in play. Void Rays, prismatic alignment doing a lot of damage. Can it carry the day? We have 7 corruptors to 15. We have 15 corruptors to 7 Void Rays. It looks like it may be just too little for the Golden Armada, and EGHuk forced a GG out of that game. What a phenomenal game between these players. I know everyone's in two minds about the swarm hosts. They can be both fun and boring. Players tend not to like these longer games. They do provide a slightly more epic game as you're forced to micro. We saw EGHuk relentlessly active with that army, trying to sneak around, but perhaps this was the wrong map to try and work his way around those swarm hosts. Nice warp-ins from EGHuk were able to do a lot of damage, but unfortunately the swarm host just too cost effective. 22,000 resources difference between these two players. Perhaps EGHuk may have done better going for slightly quicker air, maybe transitioning just a little bit quicker. Tried to make the robo play work, but unfortunately not able to do so. But a great game from both EGHuk and Kane. I got to tell you, I enjoyed casting. A little bit certainly a little bit tongue-tied at the end of this. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Gonna upload this to the channel along with lots of the other Group A stage games, so tune in for more of MLG Game On, and if you haven't subscribed, by all means please do. We will be throwing up a lot of HOTS action in the coming days, so hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you all in the next cast. Thanks guys.